Hi everybody, welcome along to this live stream. First I've got to start with some huge apologies. We've had all sorts of technical dramas this morning, or this evening, depending on where you are, what your time zone is. And it's all my fault, so it's not John's fault, so don't panic. But finally we have got the issue sorted and now we are ready to go. This is hashtag YouTube life. A couple of just little technical things to get out of the way. First of all, welcome. It's great to be with you again. If you're not already a subscriber on this channel, then please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and that little notifications bell. And don't panic, YouTube will probably unsubscribe you in a week anyway. But just for giggles, why not subscribe? And if you're not a subscriber to John's channel, make sure you do that as well. We'll get his details in just a moment when we bring him on. If you want to support the channel and help keep this content coming, I won't say anything arrogant like this awesome content, this content as it is, such as it is. There's a couple of ways you can do that. I think the super chats are working this time. They weren't last time, but I think they are this time. Also, there's a PayPal link. If you just want to leave a one-off tip, you can do that using the PayPal link below, and you can support or subscribe star. The details for Patreon are on screen here somewhere. Let me point at the Chiron like a pro, like I know what I'm doing. This guy's amazing. Now, I should start by saying too that I've had a bit of a week from hell. I'll tell you more about that when it comes to YouTube. But there's a couple of new shows that I've got if you don't know about. Some of you have just recently only caught wind of the fact that I've got another YouTube channel. And I'm doing a Monday night show called Monday Night Live, which is a bit more serious, a bit more political, sort of the big issues, if you like. And it's long-form interviews with a different guest each Monday night. It's got its own separate channel, so if you're into that sort of thing, MondayNightLiveShow.com. So open your browser, go to MondayNightLiveShow.com, and you can find past episodes there, and you can subscribe. This coming Monday night, I'm going to be interviewing UK author Mark Sidwell. Mark Sidwell has written a brand new book about cultural Marxism called The Long March. Fascinating interview. So if you're into that sort of stuff, then make sure you tune in there. And I've started a new show on this channel that you probably saw the first episode of yesterday called Walking and Talking. I want to get more short form content on the channel. I was really inspired by something John said actually, and I'll talk to him about it in a minute in one of his recent videos. But I want to get more short form content on. I've got a young family. I run my own charity and I do a lot of traveling and speaking. And so it's, for me, it can be quite hard to make all this work. So I've decided why not actually, when I go out for my daily walk, take my phone with me on a gimbal. The gimbal's still coming, and I've got a nice little shotgun mic with it now, and so record sort of short form thoughts, commentary, ideas, and just engage with you guys that way. So Walking and Talking, there'll be more episodes. Someone said to me, what night is that show on? Jeremy, it's on Monday night in New Zealand time, so it possibly might be Sunday Arvo or Sunday morning if you're in another part of the world. It's normally 8 p.m. Monday night New Zealand time. Alrighty, let's bring on a guest. You've heard enough of me blathering on. John, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Brendan. I really appreciate it. I've been a fan of Left Foot Media, especially after the Last Jedi came out. I was following your channel, and yeah, it was just a lot of good stuff. I thought you brought you had quite a few videos that I thought really summarize all the things wrong with the movie. So it's an absolute pleasure to be here. So thank you.
Oh, John, thanks for taking time out of your schedule to come on the show. I'm hoping that these conversations with different YouTubers can sort of how in my mind I'm thinking this is the Joe Rogan of the bottom end of the YouTube Star Wars / movie commentary niche. So it's a very niche market, but I thought it would be good to try and engage with various YouTube people away from like the usual personas on their channels and stuff, because there's obviously a bit more to John than just talking Star Wars, right?
I'd like to think so. Yeah, I'd like to think so. More than that, or Captain Marvel, or pretty much anything I'm known for on YouTube. So.
I love that comic book wall behind you, mate. Are they all legit, or are they photocopies of covers? Are they actually comics?
No, they're actual comics. Yeah, they're actual comics.
See, that's the mark of a true fan. Me, I've got a shameless green screen behind me because I'm a hack. But in my cupboard, in my wardrobe, we've got it's not huge, but we've got a small little walk-in wardrobe upstairs in our bedroom, and there's a stash of comic books all in plastics hidden away in there. And every now and then my older girls who have started reading comics now themselves, they sort of wander and they're like, Dad, when can we read those? And I was like, well, just hold on. These are daddies, okay? No one's touching them. So yeah, I haven't got mine on display. Maybe I should do that. Tell me, John, just tell us a little bit about yourself, mate. That's you're more than just a YouTuber, obviously. Tell us a bit about who you are and a bit about your background.
Yeah, I've gosh. Well, this could be a whole. No, actually, it couldn't be.
It's not therapy, okay?
Yeah, no, it's. I'm pretty much a normal guy. I've worked. I went to. I did a little college. Didn't quite work. Wasn't necessarily in the direction I wanted to go. I've worked. Just quite a few jobs, and it's kind of difficult to summarize who I am. I think I'm. Maybe at certain parts of my life, I've thought I've been, somebody that I'm not. And I mean, basically it's, this sounds a little boring, but I feel like I'm a pretty normal guy if you get to know me. I do have some uncommon interest here and there, but just overall, I just feel like I'm a pretty normal guy and your everyday Joe. So I know it's really maybe that's too general then. No, bro. There's
nothing wrong with that at all. In fact, probably the world could do with a few more ordinary blokes. I think, to be fair, there's too many, shall we say, abnormal fellows out there. So there's nothing wrong with that at all. I think that's good. Boring is good, eh? I watched recently the film A Hidden Life by Terence Malik. Great film. Now, some people are not big fans of Terence Malik because he can be a little bit hard to get into. I love his work and I love this film. It's a true story about a guy called Franz Jägerstatter, who was a Austrian farmer, actually, who, Catholic guy, refused to swear the oath to Hitler and join the army, and he was executed for it eventually. And it's a fascinating story about him, but it starts from this quote from T.S. Eliot, and it's called A Hidden Life because this quote from T.S. Eliot is that basically these ordinary everyday people, the boring people who live ordinary lives, actually contribute so much more to the world and to shaping the good things in the world than we realise. And so there's nothing wrong with being ordinary, mate. It's a good thing.
Speaking of Terrence Malick, so that's his latest film, right?
That is his latest, yeah.
Yeah, I thought, he's an interesting filmmaker. He's really had some, I think, extraordinary movies. Tree of Life is one of probably my all-time favorites. Yeah. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah, have you seen The Thin Red Line?
Oh yeah, that's another.
Yeah, that was awesome, eh? It's funny, he got accused for a while of getting too artsy, but he's quite an auteur. He's got his own style, right? You know when you're watching a Terence Malick film, and a lot of it too is about he's got this deep philosophical underpinning. He tries to tell you philosophy through his filmmaking, and it's quite amazing the way he does it, actually. And some people don't like it. It doesn't resonate with them, I guess.
There's nothing like his movies, though. Like, very few directors will go to that level, and I think sometimes it really works, and sometimes maybe not so much, but the fact that he's willing to get that deep on, with film in general, and get you asking like those bigger questions and thinking about those things. You got to appreciate, whether it works or it doesn't. Sometimes it's gutsy.
Yeah. Well, you think about too how much content we get these days. That is, to me, it's not so much art as it is just it's content, right? There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not going to be one of those highbrow artsy sort of snobs. Oh, don't go to Marvel movies. No, damn. Don't go to... Those are disgusting. Those are for the common people.
It's not cinema.
That's right. It's not real cinema. No, because you've got to have those guilty pleasures, and some of those guilty pleasures, that there's something really good about that ordinary everyday escapism. But I think what we tend to get today is probably got less of the arty sort of film stuff that was maybe happening in the 70s. Than what we used to, and studios aren't willing to back some really great projects anymore. You've got to wait for them to come out on home video, I guess.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate thing, because I'd like to see more of that kind of stuff hitting the theaters. I think Joker is one of those
Yeah,
anomalies
yeah,
that just kind of like hit that sweet spot of it's a low budget movie, but yet it's got this big, it's got a big actor attached to it, and of
yeah.
course a big comic book character, and so studio was willing to take a chance, but normally they don't.
Yeah, it's
So
funny. It's funny how Joker sort of slipped through the net a bit, and it's not just that this film it's so Scorsese-esque. I've got no problem with that. People criticized it at the beginning. Oh, this guy's just copying Scorsese. And I'm like, yeah, but that's actually homage, and there's a point to that. If he's imitating, he's doing his own thing, but he is imitating, or he's calling on one of the greats of cinema. I don't understand why that would be a problem. It's not like he's copying, I don't know, someone who makes straight to DVD knockoff movies or something. You know what I mean? Like, what could be wrong
we
with
wouldn't
that?
know he's ripping off anybody then if that's what he's saying.
Yeah. Is it, what's that? Not Blumhouse. What's the other one that make those awful, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, and they just copy the big blockbuster movies and they put them out there so parents who don't know what they're renting. I can't remember them. I can't remember the name of the company, but you know that sort of stuff.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
But he's doing, and it's not just he's doing that, but the film itself, Joker, it had some controversial subject matter in a sense. Like there was such a cancel culture attempt on it before it even came out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that only helped drive the film and people's curiosity for it.
Mm. Yeah. I know that when I went into it, I was pleasantly surprised, and I had a very different expectation in mind about what it was. I love that film. Can't rave about it enough. I showed it to my brother who lives in Canada. He was over recently with his wife, and he hadn't seen it at that stage, and we sat down and watched it one day. And he just, as we were going, he said to me, "Man, this film is social commentary, isn't it?" And it's like, yeah, it's amazing, eh?
Yeah, it really the kind of effect it had on me was it just I was just left that movie just stayed with me, and it stayed with me for a little while. And I don't it's difficult to explain or put into words, and it's very rare for a movie to do that, though, like at least for me, where I'm just kind of left stunned, and I have to actually think about it and process what's going on, or rather what happened, like
Yeah.
that. So that for me in itself, like if a movie can do that, like it's already done something that a lot of movies just don't do at all.
Yeah. It was and it was just, you're right. It was. I had a similar experience. Have you seen the film Calvary with Brendan Gleeson in it about the Irish priest?
No, I haven't.
Oh, look, mate, well worth watching. Brendan Gleeson and Domhnall Gleeson, actually. Old Hux is in it as well. His son, and he plays a serial killer who's a psychopath who's in jail, actually. But it is a great film, an Irish movie, and it's the premise is pretty simple. It starts with a priest. He's a good priest, Brendan Gleeson. He's sitting in his confessional when a man comes in. And he says to him at the very beginning, so he's behind the screen, and he says to him that he was the victim of sexual abuse by another Catholic priest, and so someone has to pay. There has to be justice. Someone has to pay, and he knows that Brendan Gleeson's not guilty, but he's going to kill him in 7 days. He's going to come back and kill him, and then that's the 7-day countdown, and it's so great. And you're trying to figure out who it is. He's trying to figure out who it was, and you discover his story along the way. Like he became a priest after his wife had died, so he's got an adult daughter, and all these fascinating characters. At the end of that film, it stays with you. It's one of those films that just really, really sticks with you. It's called Calvary, for those who are asking. Calvary.
That sounds good. Yeah, I just jotted it down because I'll definitely want to check that out.
Yeah, well worth the watch. Tell me, we'll talk about some favorite movies in just a minute. What made you start a YouTube channel, though? What was it that made you say, I want to be on this platform?
Well, gosh, somehow or another, this was back in 2016. So 2016, I was kind of exploring different ways of generating passive income, doing something on the side. And then I was just kind of doing things still like haphazardly and really had no idea what I was doing on the platform, and really just doing it it just became for the fun of it. I just realized that, hey, this is kind of fun making videos. And so I did a number of different, like I did prank videos. I did a video on the problems with the polls when Trump, this was during Trump's initial election, and I predicted that Trump would win, even though the polls were saying that he was going to lose, just by looking at all the times history was wrong with the polls. But I did a number, I was all over the map on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I really got serious about it, I'd say, going October 2017, I was putting out about 2 videos a week. And then The Last Jedi happened, and that happened to be one of the videos I put out. And that video did particularly well. The watch time on it was probably just the maybe even to this day, some of the best watch time I've ever had on YouTube. It was a half-hour video, but the percentage-wise was really good.
Yeah. And
then I thought, you know what? I think there's more of a demand for this content. I think people, and even for me personally, after the movie came out, I felt like I hadn't quite said everything I wanted to say about it, and certainly there was enough media, a lot of things being said in the media about the film too, that I could make videos on too, what was being said out there. So that kind of got me really kickstarted, and I made a goal that year. For 2018, it was like a New Year's resolution that I was going to try to put out a video a day.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much, that's kind of what really got me going on this journey, and still here. I don't know how much longer I'll be here, but I'm still here. So
that's awesome, mate. It's what's interesting to me is how many people really cut their teeth, I think, on The Last Jedi. It's the thing that really, I think, boosted and gave people audiences to have a platform. But obviously you've moved. You're not just talking about Star Wars though, right? Now you've moved into a whole nother space. You know that. How have you found that part of the journey?
Well, I feel like I haven't even really quite embarked on it. Like I've got a lot of ideas for videos that I'd like to do in the future. Right now, I've just been focusing on live streaming, as so many in the chat. And it's good to see all of you, Slicer Neons, Jeremy Coleman, everybody. I appreciate you guys coming through. So I've been doing a lot of live streams, and that's been really cool, just getting to interact, more and more with my audience. And I've been doing that pretty much since this whole COVID quarantine thing started. Yeah. Because there wasn't really any news out there. So the whole thing for daily content, for me at least, changed from this idea of instead of doing videos daily, I was doing more live streams daily. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been very fulfilling. And so I think I do have some ideas for videos, and I'm probably going to be pivoting at some point here. But I think I'm going to want to get some videos in the queue before I finally do that. But it's been the videos that I have done that have been a little bit different. They're very, it's very satisfying for me to just to do something a little bit different and to challenge myself too, and kind of start back from square one. And because you can get comfortable, you can get really comfortable with something that you're familiar with doing, and then to start something new or to kind of go off in territory that you haven't done. Yeah. It presents new challenges, and you got to get better. And, you definitely, like for me, I know I haven't arrived, and I could definitely get better at what I'm doing. So it's fun in that sense. And I think it's something that I personally really need right now. So
I watched one of your recent videos where you were talking about this, about being all in and about the daily content. It's what I was referencing earlier on. And it's funny because for me, I've got a young family. I've got 5 kids. I've got I run my own charity, so I do a lot of speaking work. I was going into Australia actually quite regularly. That's a sort of 3 or to 8 hour flight, depending on where you go in Australia from New Zealand. But all of that, COVID has killed all of that. But I'm still doing a lot of work around New Zealand, and I run my own charity, and so it's quite demanding. And originally, when I started, I had a daily show actually called The Daily, and I would talk about different issues, and it took me a while just to sort of find a rhythm, and then I'd been quite guilty. It's funny how you get the guilt. So I don't know about how you find this, but when you've got people who support the channel financially, and you sort of feel this obligation to them, and I've sort of had these guilty pangs about because of these other demands and stuff, not being able to produce as much content as I'd like. And I love working in the content creation space. So that's doubly hard. But I think for me, you're right. I think you've just got to be there, eh? And that's why, like, I started my walking and talking videos yesterday to hopefully I'll get a couple of those on a week, for example, short form, just being there and being present and engaging with people, I think is hugely important, eh?
That's awesome. I remember too, I was watching when you're putting out those daily vids. I know I might have commented on a couple, and I think you even got back to me on them too, which was cool. But yeah, I thought that content was great. And I was really amazed at how well it was for just being daily. And I've always thought too, you're pretty good. You're really good orator or just speaker. You know, like you could just speak off the cuff really good. I mean, I don't know how much of that content you had prepared, but I'm just assuming because it was daily. You know, you probably didn't have a lot of.
No, that was off. What I'd do is I'd sit down and I'd go, right, I need 5 topics, one for each day.
There you go.
And I still do this. On my phone, I have a list now I've started again where I just, on my notes program, and I put in a topic or something. I think, oh, it'd be good to talk about that. And then I'll go back to it and sort of, but yeah, it was off the cuff. I'd speak to a topic, you know.
Yeah, I always thought you were a great speaker, you know, just whatever videos you were doing and stuff, but even that daily stuff, I was like, wow, he's just really, like, you're just good on camera speaking. Like, a lot of times for me, I'll wind up editing or cutting something because, you know, there's just something in there where it's like, I don't like that, or or whatever, you know. But yeah, it's just, you know, it's definitely a gift I think that you have. And yeah, I thought that daily content was great. So I'm looking forward to you know, to the new content that you're putting out here with the walking videos.
That's very kind of you. And it's also a bit of it's interesting, isn't it, Harriet? So for me, one thing I've discovered with YouTubing is that people will often, they'll come and go and they'll leave you for the most fickle reasons. And I when I started, I don't know about you, but when I started, I was trying to create what I thought was a people-pleasing formula. I thought, what can I do to please an audience? And now I've realized that's a fool's game. Yeah. And so I think you've got to do what you're passionate about, really. And I'm enjoying it much more doing it that way.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. I think you just have to do what you want to do and let the chips fall where they will. And people are always, that's what I've learned, like, people will always find the most, like, minute little things wrong with your video, with your content, with what you said. Like, there's always going to be somebody like that. And sometimes it's good, you know, you can use that for constructive criticism and everything. But I feel like that's where everybody's going to like you across the board 100%. Like, that is an possible thing.
Nah. And it's interesting too, isn't it? I think we can be our own worst critics, really. I was saying earlier, I've had the week from hell. I started this week on the weekend. I wrote a great little I wouldn't say a script. I don't use scripts so much unless I do those pre-recorded videos you see with just me narrating. They're scripted, but everything else I do, I just take down notes and then I speak off the cuff. And I'd written a notes-based script for a long-form video, one of my long-form videos about a movie, which I really love. I think it's one of the best movies ever made. And I get there on Monday morning and I film it. And then I discover there's a problem with my new lighting rig. And it's honestly, it's about an hour of content unedited. It'll probably come down to about 45 minutes. And I'm like, I can't use this. So I'm going to have to go back. Tuesday morning, I go back, I actually have another camera that I have here, so I put that in place and I shifted things around a little bit. And I thought, great, lighting is all sorted. I know it's sweet now. And then there's an audio issue.
Oh my goodness. So, do you have the original audio? Well, here, I'll let you finish.
No, I don't. So here's what happened. Third time. Then I, to try and figure out, I was up till like midnight on Tuesday night trying to find where this brand new, awful audio hum was coming from. And I discover it was a mic lead. I'd swapped mic leads that I don't normally use, and it wasn't shielded cable, and it was humming away. So I was like, this is insane. And then so I went back Wednesday, and I somehow found some time in my schedule and I re-recorded Wednesday, and then last night I was up to about midnight doing the first edit, and hopefully it'll be ready by early next week. But man, that's how it is, right? That's the reality of it that people don't see, you know.
Oh, they have no idea sometimes, some like that's a long video and that's
Yeah.
that's a lot of time. But I've had that too where, sometimes it's just like, no, that's not right. That's not going to work. And, with your issue though, that was like, that's kind of like, freak of nature type of stuff where like
Yeah.
your video doesn't work and that's a nightmare, but I'm glad it finally worked out. But I was gonna say what you could do, or maybe if the audio was good, then maybe you swap out clips and stuff. But that's a lot of editing.
I
too.
know, and here's the thing. I used to be a bit more laissez-faire. I would be like, it'll be fine. The for example, the white balance wouldn't be good. For example, on one of my daily videos, I'd be like, it'll be fine. I'll look like I've got AIDS today. I'd put the thing out there. But now I'm a lot more of a harsh critic. I'm like, no. And especially when, as again, that obligation of people who are financially putting into the channel, you think, no, do your best. So,
Yeah.
I had someone here has said Dungeon Master Blaster, great name by the way, Dungeon Master, says, dude, John Talk's streams have really helped with my sanity, man. Really great stuff, especially him and Nina Infinity. Love you guys. So there you go, mate. There's some good feedback.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mod M has asked, when will we get another Gladiator level movie? If cinemas ever reopen, that is. Do you think we'll ever get it? Well, that's a sword and sandals type epic, I suppose. Will we get one?
There was talk about that, right? Gladiator
the sequel, yeah, or a prequel, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'll be shocked if that movie ever gets made, really, no. to be honest with you. I mean, it would be great. Well, here's the thing. I don't know if I take that back. I don't know if you need a sequel or prequel for that movie. I think it's just great on its own.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't mind to get another Sand and Sandals type of film, though.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, remember after that came out and then it became this huge hit and then all of a sudden everyone was doing these Swords and Sandals epics and there was so many of them that were pretty average. They're probably sort of Friday afternoon wet rainy day movies or Sunday afternoon rainy day movies, but not much more, right? Not many films got to that level.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what other ones. I mean, Gladiator was definitely like the best. I mean, I think it even won an Oscar that year for Best Picture.
That's right. And Hans Zimmer, I think the world found Hans Zimmer. The soundtrack by Hans Zimmer and Lisa Gerrard. They've been doing stuff before, but I think the world really discovered them in a big way.
Yeah, no, it was a great score. I mean, I seen that movie. That's one of the few movies I actually saw twice in theaters.
Yeah.
It reminded me of Braveheart in a lot of ways, and I thought it was just one of those like great masculine like men movies, that had it was like it was teaching. It was the idea of like virtue and basically like doing the right thing no matter what, and
yes.
It's kind of a revenge. It's a revenge story though too. So those are always captivating.
Yeah, and that was for me. That was my quandary because a man of virtue is not going to say, "Well, I'm going to go and get bloody vengeance."
Right.
But then I was always like, well, at the same time, I thought I put it in the context of the historical period in which it's set, and I thought to myself, in many ways, it's actually about justice. This was the normal. You'd normally get a death sentence for brutally murdering someone's wife and family. And so why should the emperor get away with it? And I thought to myself, there was a sense of justice and also perhaps a sense that he had gone on a bit of a journey by the end of it all. He'd started to change as a character. But yeah, that was always my quandary.
No, I could see that too. As I was going through, I'm like, well, yeah, yeah, it is a revenge story, and he does get it. There is something sweet about that, though. I mean, I think that's the thing about revenge stories is like another one that comes to mind is like Kill Bill, where you see
that's right.
The perpetrator. I think that's the idea. Like you said, it's justice. Is like seeing the perpetrator pay for their crime. It's like they have it coming, and to get it at the hands of the person that they wronged.
Yeah.
I think there's like some catharsis. Going. There's something like therapeutic for an audience. I think to see that.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's really, warranted, or should the authorities take care of that? That's definitely another question.
Yeah, and here Slicer Neons has made a very good point. I was actually just about to talk the Slicer about the Slicer. Citizen33, by the way, thank you for that super chat. Slicer has said it's not historically accurate, sadly. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It isn't. It touches on historical truths, like real historical figures, so Commodus, and obviously Marcus Aurelius. Who actually had some very great and important writings, I would argue. If you are looking for some of his stuff on living, he was in that Stoic mold, but there's some very good wisdom he had about living a life that is meaningful and virtuous. But the emperor who gets into the ring, that did happen, and it only happened once, but it was not celebrated. Because, for an emperor to get into the ring as a gladiator, it was considered absolutely disgraceful because it was, he was lowering himself to that level. But there's something about that film. I mean, the characters, Joaquin Phoenix, probably he made his mark on that film, right?
Definitely, yeah. I feel like that's like his first big movie, like it was a blockbuster type. Like it did well at the blockbuster too, so I think that really put him on the map.
Yeah. Yeah, and remember, was it Connie Nielsen, right? She was in that. She was the sister.
Yeah.
I think it got it right. It captured the brutality and the ugliness of the Roman Empire and the royal family with that incestuous thing, but it never went. Yeah. It never got ugly, and it's a film that you could watch. I was thinking the other day, actually, my kids are probably just about old enough to watch it for the first time. And it never got too dark or too ugly that you couldn't show it to them,
Yeah, it was like kids wouldn't quite understand what was going on.
Yeah.
Which was great, Yeah. So it's like something, because they're almost like speaking in code when Commodus is talking about, I think it was like the bees or something like that.
That's right, yeah.
Nothing's ever too apparent to where your kids are probably going to be asking you like,
what's that mean?
Dad, what does that mean? Yeah, and then it gets...
there was so many quotable lines. My brother and I used to wander around quoting his opening dialogue, was it husband to a murdered wife, father to a murdered son, I will have my vengeance. And what was the other one? Commodus, somebody's been a busy bee. And my wife and I used to quote that all the time. Somebody's been a very busy bee. It was so quotable. There's some interesting deleted scenes. I don't know if you've seen the deleted scenes. I've got the special edition on Blu-ray, and there's the deleted scenes.
It's been a while.
There's one with I don't know, for whatever reason they decided to cut out of it, maybe just for length, but he's watching some Christians get eaten by lions in the arena.
That. That was a cool historical tidbit in there. The only reason why I think it got left out was because, as cool of a historical tidbit that it is, I'm not quite sure if it serves the story. In the sense of like, this world that they've created and the narrative, or the what's going on between the characters, and it does seem to kind of like maybe break from it a little bit. Yeah, that's my only reasoning for it. I think if they left it in, it wouldn't have hurt the film, obviously, but it might have even gave it a little bit more historical context, which maybe even would have made it feel a little bit more real in that sense. But that was a cool scene, though, from what I remember.
Well, yeah, and because Maximus obviously is down he's waiting under the Colosseum to come out as he's watching through this window as they. What I think would have been interesting about it is that it would have given you a juxtaposition, because his whole thing was about vengeance, and the Christians went willingly as martyrs. Like they didn't engage in brutal violence, and it would have shown you this sort of, and it could have been a moment. You got that sense maybe looking at the scene, he's contemplating his own, but maybe they thought it didn't quite communicate, and it's just too much time-wise. It was already a long film,
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a great point. I think maybe too they might have felt like, because it's a film that doesn't really leave you too much room to think too much, like fill in the gaps, and so I think you got it. I think you totally understood what they were going for.
Yeah.
But even myself watching the deleted scene, or if that was in the movie, I'm not quite sure if I would have put two and two together that way.
Yeah. It wasn't obvious, right?
Yeah. But I think that's a very interesting, like, that seems to make perfect sense now that you said that, um, and maybe, maybe even him questioning whether or not, maybe he should just, depart quietly and just, rather than, the way he goes about things. I'm not sure, but I do know there was quite a few cool scenes left on the cutting room floor, and that was certainly one of them.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. If you haven't seen them, go and look up or get yourself a copy of the deleted scenes and watch them. It's funny because he followed up not long after, remember, with Kingdom of Heaven, which was Orlando Bloom, wasn't it, playing a piece of wood in the period of the Crusades. But that one, he made a real mess of that one. Like historically, didn't Saladin was presented as almost magnanimous, merciful sort of leader, and he was brutal. And the history of what was going on with the Crusades was a very much the modern revised version, which doesn't tell the accurate picture and what the Crusades were and stuff. And it's a shame because there's so much beauty in that film, like visual beauty, but the main character, it just,
That's one of those films that actually, some of the people in the chat here. Here's another film that John has not seen, Kingdom of Heaven. So I've throw that one in there with Die Hard. So I think I'm the only person in the world or on Earth that hasn't seen Die Hard. So I've told everybody that's.
So you've never seen Die Hard, the first one. You've never seen the original.
I've seen bits and pieces of it, but I've never seen the whole film.
Wow.
So
I mean, you've got to sit down this Christmas and watch the ultimate Christmas film, mate.
That's what well, people are telling me it's a Christmas film. Some people are saying it's a great action film, but either way, I've got to see this movie. It's ridiculous. The fact that I haven't.
There's talking about quotable quotes, mate. There's even my wife. My wife is not. Man, my wife likes Downton Abbey, but she says to me at Christmas, let's watch Die Hard again. Like she's not into to those sort of films at all. It's a great, mate. It's a great film.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it here pretty soon. I've actually had too many people begging, like basically yelling at me, and I've even got some super chats. So it's like I've gotta watch this movie now.
And you've got to tell people what you think of it. Speaking of, a couple of people have mentioned Braveheart as a bit of an unreliable historical epic. Yeah, it was written by Randall Wallace, right? He also wrote that one with him and Mel Gibson worked a lot together. They did a great adaptation of Joseph Gray's excellent book, We Were Soldiers, Once and Young. So We Were Soldiers is a phenomenal film. The book, if you haven't read the book, you should read the book. There's even, like, the film actually. There's so much more that was going on that you miss out on that the book tells you about. That one with the Patriot, that was probably one of my least favourites. That was a bloody revenge film. The Patriot that was just brutal. But yeah,
did all his kids get killed in that movie?
Well, remember his kid was his son. One? His son got killed and his wife, wasn't it? I'm just trying to remember. Okay. And then one of them goes to the sister-in-law, which he eventually marries. Who was it? The daughter survived, and the oldest son got shot. The youngest son got killed. I can't remember the exact details, but yeah, it was brutal.
Was it a big knife battle at the end or something?
Yeah, they have brutal. And they have the big. Remember, he turns up waving the flag against the British. Remember, he's running, and it just turns into a slaughter fest. It made Last of the Mohicans look like a children's Sunday school film,
Mel Gibson's he really likes. Sometimes it really works, and then sometimes I think he is going a bit overboard. But, in terms of the graphicness, but
well, that's what he does. Violence, he does. Yeah. He actually does. Like Apocalypto, a great film. Passion of the Christ. He made a movie about Jesus that was probably one of the most violent movies ever made. That's a trademark at that point.
That movie was intense. I remember seeing that was another film that just left me, after you leave the theater, and it was like, oh my goodness, it's kind of a similar, definitely a different type of response than Joker, but it just leaves you like, it was an experience.
Yeah.
More than I thought anything, which, few movies do that. So, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously I think he did something with that.
Oh, it was phenomenal. Remember, it's all in Aramaic too. Which people said you can't do that. You can't do that. And Jim Caviezel playing Jesus, he actually there was a lightning strike during one of those scenes where he was on the cross and he got crispied by it, and it was unbelievable what he suffered to make that film. And then my wife and I, we sort of try and watch it each Easter if we can. Actually, it's our little thing that we do, and yeah, it's when we'd love to show it to our kids. Apparently, there was a PG-13 version that he released. We took out some of the scourging stuff.
Oh, okay.
But we never got it here. I never saw it, and I've tried to track it down. I don't know where you could find it. But the talk now of the sequel, after the resurrection, and my first thought was, I bet you he's going to have a whole lot of scenes of brutal persecution and slaughter of Christians at the hands of the Romans or something like that. I can't see him doing a sedate movie.
Yeah, that seems like something that he would probably incorporate in some way. Yeah, I thought Hacksaw Ridge was brilliant though too.
Oh, great film.
Yeah,
and the thing about that film too is that a lot of people don't realize that you look at that and you go, oh, they must have embellished this. He actually toned it down. There's amazing bits of that story that don't even make it into the film that you'd think this can't be real.
Yeah, when you hear the story, the biography, they got what an incredible life.
Yeah, Desmond Doss. Some of that was filmed in Sydney, actually, a place I do a bit of speaking work. Used to before COVID, around a place called Campbelltown, and it's got that old school, like the scenes of the back in the hometown, and it's probably why Hugo Weaving's in the film, actually, Australian actor,
Oh, okay.
Great. He plays his dad, the alcoholic father.
Okay.
Yeah, there's great film. But what did you think of Braveheart? Were you a Braveheart fan?
Oh, I love Braveheart. Yeah, I actually put it on. I didn't fill out. I was doing this at some point in my day and I got distracted. I got distracted when I was already distracted. So there's going around on Twitter. It's like 7 movies, 7 friends. So somebody tags you, and then you got to put down your 7 movies. Well, Braveheart was one of them. I haven't put. I didn't tweet that yet officially, but Braveheart was definitely on the list as one of my favorite films of all time. Absolutely, there's so much going on in the movie, and I think there's so much to glean from it.
Yeah.
I mean, besides all that, though, too, it's just a beautiful movie. The scenery is incredible, and some of these battle sequences are, like Mel Gibson, as far as him as a person, I mean, obviously people have different opinions on him, but as far as like a filmmaker goes, I don't think anybody can argue with the fact that he's really good at what he does.
Yeah, phenomenally so, right? And it's funny because you're right. He's got these demons in his closet and these outbursts that he has and things that he says. But then at the same time, I've heard so many stories from Hollywood celebrities who say that he's like a contradiction, I think. They say that he was the man who saved them. So Robert Downey Jr., you can go, I think you can probably YouTube the footage of him talking about Mel Gibson saving him from drug addiction. Because I think Mel had his own issues in that area. Yeah. Courtney Love, apparently he went and she was threatening to kill herself. And he went and he waited outside her hotel room door just to convince her not to do it. Like to that like it's funny. He's studying contradictions, and then he'll go on a rant against his wife, or leave his wife and kids and take off with some young model. It's weird,
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just like one of those stories where somebody has, they're just exposed to so many opportunities that the average person, like you or I or anybody out there, we're not going to deal with the type of level of like temptation that somebody like Mel Gibson or some of these celebrities would deal with. Obviously not making excuses for his behavior, but it is a different kind of world, and I don't envy him, and I don't envy anybody in that world really.
No, and I get the feeling with Mel Gibson that you get a sense that he knows that too. Like I think a lot of celebrities, they're deviants basically, but they don't realize it. They think this is normal because they're so caught up in this deviant bubble. But I think
they found out though too. They haven't been caught.
That's right. And if they get caught doing something, think about Kevin Spacey and his apology. You know, it was more like, oh, what do I have to say here so I can carry on with my career? Like, but you get the sense with Mel Gibson, he actually, like, he knows. He's not trying to make excuses for himself. There's a interesting little piece of trivia. In The Passion of the Christ, there's a close-up you see of a Roman soldier. You just see the hand and the hammer nailing in the nails to Christ on the cross, like bang, bang, bang. And you don't see the soldier, you just see the hand. That's Mel Gibson. And he did that on purpose. He said that he wanted to just sort of put himself in a way that obviously wasn't showy, but made a point that meant something to him, that like he's this guy banging in he's doing this awful thing to Christ. And that was enlightening for me. It was like, you get a sense that he knows he's not perfect and you know, he's not trying to pretend to be, you know, some saint or anything like that, you know.
Yeah.
Braveheart. Sorry, carry on.
Oh no, I was just going to say, like, interviews that I've seen him in, especially after everything has hit the fan for him, he does seem to be like you know, I think he's been incredibly humbled by the experience. You know, how could you not be? I don't know. Like,
yeah.
But he does seem like a different, you know, I don't know. He seems, I think it's definitely had an impact on him. And, you know, I think that's what part of it too is, I think the reason why he's gone back to, like, he made it, you know, Hacksaw Ridge, which is, you know, I think it's a great film, is that maybe that's part of him just getting back to doing what he loves and kind of an escape too, in a sense of probably, you know, the personal stuff that he might have going on.
Yeah. Well, there was nothing really controversial in a sense about making a film about, you know, this guy, Private Desmond Doss. You know what I mean? It wasn't like even The Passion of the Christ, they were trying to accuse him of being anti-Semitic and blaming the Jews for the death of the Christ, but the film doesn't do that. Like if you've seen the film, you know it doesn't do that. I remember all of that hype. That was probably, I think, one of the first big cancel culture moments ever. Years before cancel culture became a thing. And I remember there was all of this hype before the movie had even been released, claiming it was anti-Semitic, and there was articles being written, and people were trying to effectively get the film silenced or shut down. It became one of the biggest sellers ever, like huge audiences. But yeah, it's not what the film's about at all.
Yeah, no, and it did wind up. It was one of the highest R-rating, grossing R-rated films of all time. I think Joker was the, you know, one of those films that went ahead of it. I think Deadpool too. But I mean, for a film to be, the crazy thing about that movie though is, like, for it to be in subtitles. Yeah. And to, you know, because you know how a lot of people, they don't want to read subtitles. No. You know, so
where's my English Jesus? Come on, where is he?
Right. Right. You know? Yeah. I mean, I think that was not to go back to the movie, but it really was a great idea, because I think it made it more immersive. Yeah. In the fact that it's in a different language, and it kind of puts you more in the, like, you feel like you're actually there, like you're transported into it. Because foreign films do that too. Like, foreign films have this weird immersive quality where it feels like another world. It feels like a completely different place. And, you know, there's something that you can really get sucked into a really good foreign film. Yeah. Just because you know, if the story is good. But you know what else I think you don't tend to notice. Well, I have this theory that maybe if you're watching it, say you watch a German film and you're a German speaker, you might notice bad acting, you know, whereas if you don't speak German, you're not quite sure whether it's, you know what I mean? Like, that's true. That's true.
You know, does this dialogue feel real or not? You can't tell, you know? Right. You just kind of have to trust it. Like, you know, it's like, it looks legit to me. Yeah. It's funny, yeah. I always thought that. Before I say that, Braveheart. I love Braveheart. I think you're right. It's, people have said it's not historically accurate. A lot of people commenting here saying it's not historically accurate. Yes, you're right. And particularly Edward the Longshanks got a bit of a raw deal in this. He was the guy actually. I think from memory, he invented the leasing system for land. Actually, quite a clever chap. But that whole prima nocta thing and everything else didn't go down too well. But I remember it spawned. There was a movie that came out after that, and you can see how this again, a big, massive film has an influence and sparks other imitators, if you like. Rob Roy, about Rob Roy McGregor. Believe it or not, I've got Scottish ancestry on one side of my family, and we're a direct descendant to Rob Roy, and that was a brutal revenge story. But you could see that they're like, okay, man, there's a Scottish revenge themed movies. Let's what else can we make a film about?
Yeah, it's funny. I've got a little Scottish in me as well, so I think that's why, maybe Braveheart too, maybe that's why I got a special soft spot for somebody like William Wallace. But no, that was totally it was just that idea of okay, we're gonna try to bank off of something. It was like Star Wars. After Star Wars came out, and this was a little bit before my time, of course, but you had all these terrible space movies coming out that were kind of cheap imitations of the original.
Yeah, and everyone realized this was where the money was. yeah
that's Hollywood for you.
It's in some ways you'd say this is the curse of Lucas, where George Lucas gave us this glorious mythology in that original Star Wars and the universe that it opened up, but then he also created a basically a mega corporatized filmmaking machine. He was very aware of merchandising and things like that, and that transformed. So it's like the paradox: you take the good, and you also have to take the bad as well that came with it.
Yeah, that's the contradiction of, the interesting thing about George Lucas. I mean, some people will say he became the thing that he hated, and I guess it's when you think about it, it's kind of true. But he saw the opportunity there, and he jumped on it. But like you said, it's kind of a matter of you got to take the good with the bad, I guess.
Let's talk about Lucas. But before we do that, one little thing just to wrap up on Mel Gibson. I always thought that he would have been a great Logan, a great Wolverine.
Oh yeah, I agree. Especially in his heck, even now, if he was playing an aged or an older Wolverine, he's a burly guy. He's even gotten bigger than he was.
That's right. Yeah, I think it was the Expendables, wasn't it? He beefed up for that. Expendables 3.
Yeah, he's big. I think so too. I mean, whether you take it back in his heyday or whatever, I think I think Clint Eastwood in his heyday, although he's pretty tall, so I don't know how that would work out. But
he had the persona. He had the persona, right?
That's the thing about Eastwood. Yeah.
Jack Nicholson, you reckon, as well for Wolverine?
He has this weird look. He does look like. Well, if you take this cover here, I don't know if you guys can see it, but that one with the Frank Miller, it does feel like Jack Nicholson in his prime when he was younger.
Yeah, that's the one on the bottom left there, eh?
Yeah.
That you're right. I can see that.
But yeah, of course now maybe not so much, but yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. Mel Gibson, Wolverine for sure.
It's funny because you get the sense when Logan is one of my favorite films of late, and another great, I think, a masterpiece.
Yes.
What's interesting about that film is you get the sense that because one thing I thought is how the heck is Hugh Jackman going to do this, because he's a bit more toned down. He's the milder mannered version of Wolverine. But it worked. And you get the sense maybe he is almost channeling Gibson and Eastwood, and he really suddenly became this very dark and brooding character in a major way.
Yeah, I think his performance, I mean, especially in Logan, was, Logan, for me, I'm curious to hear where you would rank it, but I think for me, I'd probably rank it. It's either number 2 or number 1 on my greatest superhero movies of all time.
Yeah, it's right up there for me. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Joker. It was only usurped, I think, by the Joker in making a film that crossed genres. It's a Western, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And it stays true, and it really did. I mean, I thought it stayed true for the most part to its genre, but just also in terms of filmmaking, it's not flashy. There's not a ton of CGI.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Do you have the I'm not sure if you have the film, but have you ever seen the Logan Noir?
Yeah, the
The
Chrome.
Black and
Not
White
Chrome. That's
version?
Mad Max's. And I've got both Mad Max Fury Road and Logan. So the black and white versions. Yeah, I've got both of those.
Oh, okay.
It's great.
Did you
It
watch
is
it? Did you
great.
watch it in black and white?
Yeah, it is great. It
Yeah, I
works.
thought it was
You know, it's funny. It tones
absolutely.
it down. You can almost show it to your kids because the blood and guts
Yeah,
is not.
it's true.
Hey kids, we're going to watch a black and white film. Don't worry, Mum. We're watching a black and white movie. Oh yeah, okay. Was it some sort of old sort of John Wayne film? Yeah, something like that. I think too. Logan's right up there. You know what else is underrated? Is the one before it that that James Mangold made, the Wolverine.
The
Was it
Wolverine. Yeah, I agree.
That
Yeah.
I watched that at the time it came out, and I don't know what it was. Maybe I was on a plane or something or somewhere. And I just like, ugh. But then I rewatched it, and it was probably a year or two later, and I was like, this film is actually really good. And then I watched it again just recently with my eldest daughter because she's now 13, and so like I introduced her to The Matrix recently, and we watched The Wolverine, and it was like watching it with her again. I was like, this is really good. And you could see the beginnings of what Logan was going to become. So you could see Mangold's trying to create that more serious, darker themed version of Wolverine, but it's only at Logan that it really comes to completion.
Yeah, I heard the third act of the movie. I think the studio execs stepped in
Yes.
where it turned into the big CGI thing and with the Silver Samurai and all that.
Yeah.
But I think up until that point, a lot of that is his movie. And
Yes.
I was very impressed by that too. I thought it was, and when I was initially watching, I'm like, wow, this is really good. I did not expect them to like actually spend time developing the characters and then his relationship with Jean Grey,
That's right.
those dream sequences and everything.
Yeah.
It really, like you said, like you could see the beginnings of what Mangold really wanted to do, but he was just held down by this. And I think when they approached them for another movie, or either they proposed it, they're basically like, we want full control.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're going to give us that, and unless you give us this R rating, we're not interested in doing the movie. And Hugh Jackman, I think he's like, I want to do it. I want to make sure this gets done the right way if this is going to be my last time going out. And perfect case example, you give a filmmaker like the full reins over something, especially somebody like James Mangold.
Yeah.
You turn out with the most successful Wolverine movie and one of the most successful X-Men movies ever.
Well, here's the interesting thing about it too. It's really quite profound. The whole thing of Charles Xavier with dementia. They've figured out what would that actually look like if you had this guy with these amazing mental telepathy powers who suddenly lost control of his mind. That's quite a frightening thing, and they get that right.
Oh yeah.
But it's also there's that beautiful scene just before he dies where he talks about that. They had the perfect day, it's just honestly it was moving. It's really it's a really well crafted film. It's not a popcorn movie. But it is at the same time. You can go and enjoy it, but it's not at that level.
Yeah, I mean, I would say by the end, especially the end scene, and I wouldn't doubt. I think the death scene of that, I wouldn't be surprised if the studio wanted them to cut that a little bit because I think it did feel maybe like it just a tad bit short, but yeah. But that scene was still moving as can be. And then the last scene, too, with the burial.
That's right.
For a superhero movie to move me to, to those type of emotions, like, that's extremely rare. I mean, I can't even think of another superhero film that does that or that has done that.
No, and it's the funny thing is, too, that it was... when you think about it, it's a film that it's an X-Men movie, but it's actually not really. And you see what he was trying to do with the Wolverine, where he finds a way, creates a MacGuffin so that Wolverine is not as powerful. So, because if he's too powerful, it doesn't work. The drama goes. If he can just whip out his claws and destroy everyone and never get destroyed himself, how do you defeat a guy like that? So in the Wolverine, he figures out a way to do that. And then you see again with Logan, he's now older and you see how that previous event has impacted him as well, and it's it actually works. So it's an engaging story. You get the threat, and the younger Wolverine, that was perfect. You put him against himself basically, but a more powerful, juiced up version. You know.
Yeah, yeah, and there's this kind of like this dichotomy going on, or like rather this, the story of like the old versus the new, and there's a lot of contrast in that, in that movie, and the fact that they brought like comic books into it.
Yeah.
And he's saying like, this is the real world, people die.
Right. That's right.
And kind of implying too, it's like, well, that's all myth.
Yeah.
And where he says like some of it was real, some of it wasn't, and it's kind of an interesting thing to do, especially with a comic book film, to even bring the idea of comic books into a comic book film.
Yeah.
Because then it's, I guess you could say it's meta, or I don't know what you would want to call it.
Do you know who I thought of? When he did that, I thought of M. Night Shyamalan. I thought of Unbreakable, where comic books were a mythology.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. That's probably, not to go too, go right off topic, but that is one of my favorites. That probably is my favorite M. Night Shyamalan film.
Yeah. And about masculinity too. It's about a man who doesn't know who he is, and he finds himself, and then he gives himself back to his wife and kids, and he finds his vocation. It's quite profound.
Oh yeah. Did you see the most recent one, Glass?
Yeah, I've seen the follow-ups. Both of the Split was great. I thought Glass.
Yeah.
It's a shame. They didn't quite know what to do.
Yeah, I thought his death too. I thought David Dunn's death. It didn't really pay off.
No.
And I think he was just doing it for like shock value. Spoiler alert! I'm so if you haven't seen the movie.
Oh, by the way, spoilers.
Yeah.
Go to this timestamp right here if you want to avoid the spoilers we just said.
Whoops. I honestly though, if you haven't seen it, you didn't really. You'd be fine, I think, with just seeing Unbreakable and seeing. And Split was good too. I thought it was a very solid movie, but Glass didn't hit.
I might rewatch the three now that they're all together and back to back and just see. But it. Yeah, what a shame. Because I was so excited at the end of Split. Here he is sitting in that diner.
Oh, yeah.
Like, brilliant. But yeah.
Are you a fan of Nolan?
Oh, look, you mean Christopher Nolan? I love Nolan. If he made a film about paint drying or yogurt going bad, I'd watch that film. I would watch that film, Christopher Nolan, house painting. I'd watch it.
Well, I was going to say, just because there is I think there's a theory going on that Tenet is like a prequel to Inception or something like that.
Right.
I don't think it's true, but
no.
How would you feel about Christopher Nolan kind of creating his own little shared universe within his films?
Look, I think it would be amazing, but I don't know if he'll do that because you look at the breadth of what he's done and you get the sense that this is a serious sort of filmmaker who takes each story as its own serious subject. But I mean, look, it'd be awesome. But what I'd love even more is it'll never happen, but to see him direct a Star Wars trilogy would be my dream.
Oh, that would be, yeah. I mean, I'm there. Like, I mean, at this point, Star Wars like is beneath him. At least where Star Wars is at right now, for sure. Yeah. But I would love to see something like that. What's in your opinion? What's your favorite Nolan movie, and what's your least favorite one?
That's a good question. I probably the.
I'm sorry. I really should.
No, I don't know if I have.
I'm gonna ask you this question.
No, this is good.
I need to send it to you before.
No. This is good.
Because if you're gonna bring it back at me, I'm like already got the wheels turning myself.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, I'm gonna ask you in a second. For me, then, I think it's hard. Do I like the emotional heart of a film or the technical craft? Because all of his films are great. I think probably for me. The Dark Knight is phenomenal filmmaking, and I love Batman, so that I've always had a bit of from my childhood, a love for Batman. But I think I really love what was the one he made? Oh, I can't even think of the name of it now. The novel, it's based on the novel of the same name. about with David Bowie playing Tesla in it.
The Prestige.
The Prestige, yes, the Prestige. It's in my collection. I could see the cover and everything. Now, the Prestige, my wife read the novel after we watched that. Nolan actually made a better version of that story. The novel is dark, man. But he got it right. And so I love that film. But I think probably what resonates with me, like on an emotional level, I think is Interstellar. Because of that whole sense of fatherhood. And the idea of there's a really strong two themes in there is that, you know, technology and a world without love, particularly technology without the boundaries of virtue and love, is an awful evil thing. Like Matt Damon's character and what Michael Caine's character becomes, they're actually awful people, you realise. And there's no virtue on what they're just like, we must save the world, we'll do anything, you know. The other thing was fatherhood, and that whole there's a great line in that where he says that his job, I think he told his wife this, our job is to be the ghosts of our children's past. I think it's something like that. And it's this idea that, you know, we're supposed to haunt our children by the way we raise them and be part of who they are. And to me, that, I tell you why. I travel a lot. And for me as a father going away from my kids, even for short trips, there's always a sense of sadness in that. I love my kids. I love my family. And so when he drives off that scene where he drives off to take off and leave Earth, and his daughter's angry with him, and she's never going to see him again, and you know that, man, that really, really resonated with me as a father in a very powerful way. So I think Interstellar has got something of a heart for me. But I love everything he does. Probably the least favourite, Memento, believe it or not. I like the film.
Oh, okay.
It's a solid film. I love the concept, and I love that little spoiler too, where there's that little flash where you actually see who, you know, when he's doing the drug injection, I think it's in the rest home, and there's a little brief, deliberately done edit. It's a split-second cut, and you see who he really is, who's actually doing the injection. It's him. And a lot of people have missed it, eh? It's quite fascinating. And but it's a good film. But it's if you're going to say I've got a least favorite, it's just the one that didn't quite resonate with me the same.
Okay. Have you ever seen his first movie, The Following?
Yes, I've seen bits of it. I haven't seen the whole thing though.
I mean, even that movie, I would say it's pretty impressive for the limitations that he had working on it. And, you know, it's a black and white movie, and a lot of he did the handheld, a lot of camera work himself.
That's right.
But yeah, you just kind of see the seeds were there, like for the ability to tell a story. And, you know, it's a great independent movie. I won't count that in his film catalog though.
Yeah.
Because
neither do I.
Yeah, because that would be, I'd probably say it would be my least favorite. I think for me, Interstellar is good. Like Interstellar to me is like the modern 2001 Space Odyssey.
Yeah, and lots of homage. You can see that.
Definitely. And very, it was, I'll have to watch it again too, because I feel like it was there's a lot of different things going on in that movie. And, you know, it's like most of his films.
Yeah.
You know, I think an easy pick for me would be the Dark Knight. I think that was a movie I loved Memento when I seen it. That was the first Christopher Nolan movie I seen.
Yeah.
And I was like very interested. I'm like, what's this guy gonna do next?
Yeah.
The Prestige though, I think it's a tie between The Prestige or The Dark Knight, and then I'd say my least favorite is The Dark Knight Rises.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a walking and talking video about that. I've already got one. Yeah, because I won't spoil it for people, but I think he figured out something culturally in that film. He was a bit ahead of the curve there.
With the whole.
Yeah, well, let's have trials and let's take over the city. Like what's happening in America now is what's happening in Gotham in that film. We'll eat the rich. You know, I think he saw what was coming. But you're right. Of the three Batman films, it's the weakest.
Yeah, and it's still captivating and good. So that's like even Nolan's movie is like, even his least best movies are like better than most directors.
Okay, let me ask you one then. Someone has said, did you watch Dunkirk, by the way?
Oh, you know what? Ooh, that makes it difficult. I did. I would say that's the least Nolan movie he's ever done.
I disagree. I disagree. And let me tell you why. Someone's just reminded me of this. Jose, thank you, Jose, has said Insomnia was his least favorite, and I think Insomnia. Remember the remake? It's a remake of I think it's a Nordic film originally. The Nordic film's great.
Yeah.
But with it's Al Pacino and Robin Williams, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now that was the least Nolan I thought of all of his films.
No, and I think that's fair. I think he just directed that movie. I don't know if he had any writing credits. I could be wrong, and I think that might have something to do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the sense of, I'll agree with you, because all of his movies have a very similar structure.
Yeah.
And Dunkirk still followed it was true to the structure of Nolan's movies. Yeah. I guess I just wanted more. I just need a little bit more narrative in that film.
Yeah.
It's more of an experience film, and that's fine. And I get that. But for me, who, doesn't know about this particular event going on in World War II, to not have like any context, and it's an unconventional movie, but it's technically speaking, it's very, it's very well crafted, as all of his movies are.
It's glorious. Did you suddenly, how long did it take you to get, and what happened for you when you realized it was non-linear? Because you're almost 2/3 of the way through, I think, before you realized that.
That was fine. It was just like a different way of thinking about, it was an interesting way to structure, it's kind of like he explored that with Inception a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
Like the idea of like dealing with different times, going on. But yeah, I think that worked out fine. I think it's just like going back to the idea of like, who's the character, like what do they want? And, it's funny because, I mean, as much as, sure, we want something different, and this is just, obviously me personally as a viewer, like you want something different that's going to challenge you.
Yeah.
At the same time, there are certain things that I feel like, okay, character, like you need to have this in a film to really understand, the motive, like what's the motive of the main character? What do they want? What are their aspirations? Will they get it? Will they not? Yeah. Those basics and stuff. So I feel like with all this other movies, you had that understanding where for this film, it's like, I just want to create an experience. I literally want to show you what it was like there.
Yeah.
And I understood that too. Like I knew exactly what he was going for. Yeah. But I think for me personally, it was just like, I want more. Funny thing is, my dad's a big World War II buff. He loves war movies. And my dad and my mom went to see the movie, and my mom, she liked it. She was like, I was entertained for an hour and a half. My dad's like, he knows about Dunkirk, but it's like, they've never explained. He's like, what the hell,
Yeah. So, it's funny, isn't it? Because I think you're right. I think it's because Nolan is from a British family. And so if you're British, Dunkirk is a very important moment. I mean, it could have all gone badly wrong for them. Hitler could have won at that point. And so it's this funny, it's not just that, it's also, it was Churchill was involved, and everyone thinks of Churchill as the great war hero, but they forget about the fact that to get to that point, he had to learn from some mistakes he made as well. So it's quite seminal for the British people in their history, but outside of that, a lot of people, it's like, unless you know all that, you're not just going to suddenly get immersed in that.
Yeah, I think maybe that was it. I think, it was a film that was true to what happened, as opposed to, like, let's say Saving Private Ryan, where it takes fictional characters and puts them in a realistic setting. And, so it definitely on the technical level and just on the experience alone, I can't say it was a bad film. But I might say that
technically it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I almost sense that maybe it's almost, we were talking earlier on about Terence Malik. It's almost got Malik's sort of, it's more visual and visceral.
Yes. It's funny that you mentioned that, because I would say I think there were some aspects of it that did remind me of it. Like even the Thin Red Line, however, like the Thin Red Line did have, even though it's very free flowing from character to character, even the narration that you got in the movie kind of give you an idea of like where some of the characters were coming from.
Yeah.
which gave a little bit more. Where Nolan's like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna throw you into this experience, and you're just gonna be immersed in it. And
We had
yeah,
a
and I think it works.
well, it does. You're right. It does. It's immersive. For me, it's a film you watch and you go, there's an emotional experience and a visual one as well. The story is, you really need to do a bit of your own research to get a story context, I think, for those events if you don't know them. It's funny you say your mother really connected with it, and I wonder if that's because it really had an emotional heart,
I
rather
think
than a
that might be
technical
why.
war story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me, a couple of people have talked about 1917. That was, that's an example of using a real historical war event, but also doing something. I will watch anything. If you tell me Roger Deakins was a cinematographer,
Yes.
I will watch that film. Like I was explaining this to my kids the other day. A lot of people have missed the fact that Rango was Roger Deakins. And that Rango film, the kids' animated movie, is I think, one of the best animated movies ever made. Go and watch that film. It's a Western. It's you watch, every frame is so rich, and it's Roger Deakins again.
Really?
Yep. And
Rango.
and you're like,
what year is this?
So Rango came out when? Is it 2012? I want to say, but I could be wrong. One of my minion researchers, go and find out for me. Google it. Rango was Gore Verbinski. Remember Pirates of the Caribbean?
Okay. Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, well, let's see how he does an animated movie, and it didn't land. So Johnny Depp voices the main character, who's this chameleon, but it's a Western, and Timothy Olyphant actually plays Clint Eastwood in it. It's there's a scene with Clint Eastwood, but it's so visually rich, and yeah, Roger Deakins, and you see, honestly, you go back and watch that film, and this could be a film that if it was made with real actors instead of being a cartoon CG film, you'd go, wow, this is amazing. And it's Roger Deakins. You can see his cinematography in this animated film, the lighting. Honestly, go if you haven't seen it. Yeah, you got to.
I'm looking at images right now of the of
2011, 2011, by the way.
Okay. Yeah, he's definitely in my top. He's like top 3 cinematographers, maybe top 2 or 1. I mean,
yeah.
Wally Pfister, Christopher Nolan cinematographer. I thought his work was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, Roger Deakins, he's done so many different films. In Blade Runner 2049.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
Like, yeah, that's probably like the pinnacle of his work.
So Blade, him and Denis Villeneuve obviously have a bit of a thing. He also worked on Prisoners, didn't he? I'm pretty sure it's him on Prisoners.
Yes.
And that is a phenomenal film. I'm actually preparing a commentary video on that movie.
So good.
But also James Bond. The best James Bond, I think, so far with Daniel Craig is Skyfall. He did Skyfall. Yeah. Roger Deakins did that.
Yep.
Yeah. If you told me Deakins was doing a film, I'd want to watch it.
Even if it's bad, it's going to be like not saying like it like. I think he selected his projects very good. Like Sicario 2 is another great film.
That's right.
His.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're just visually so good to look at. It's weird too because it's not like the photography is like blatantly shouting at you saying, "Hey, look at me. Isn't this such a cool shot?"
Yeah.
But there's just beauty, and there's a reason for every for why he shoots something the way he does. Like you can tell there's actual thought put behind it.
Yeah.
And it serves the story. And it's, a lot of times it's lit really well, or it's like Fargo 2 is another one of those films where he just captures a certain look and a feel. I mean, there's so many movies he's done. He's just, he is like probably the greatest of all time. I think now, because he's got this breadth, he's proved he's not a one-note cinematographer. From science fiction, futuristic stuff to westerns to war epics. Yeah, he's done it all. And I'm so glad that he finally got an Oscar, for crying out loud. How's this guy not?
I
agree. He was
agree.
nominated for like 13 films or something.
I know. And his use of natural light, like like 1917 is like the pinnacle where you see this and and everyone knows the story about it. The way they would shoot scenes in daylight and then come back if the daylight was fading, they didn't bring in artificial lighting. They'd come back until they got the right daylight. They could shoot it again. And so a lot of people know that story. But if you watch, for example, Skyfall, you see this at the beginning. And again, like you say, he does things for a reason. The way Bond steps into the light at the very beginning of that film, in that corridor, he steps out of the shadows. And then at the end of that film, at the Skyfall Manor in Scotland, and the way he used natural light there, honestly, you see it. Blade Runner again. This I don't know. I went and saw Blade Runner in a movie theater where there was a restaurant below the theater, and the air conditioning fan in the restaurant had broken. So all the way through the movie, it started about 2 minutes into the film. All you could hear was a from the floor.
Oh, man.
And you had to concentrate extra hard, and people got their money back and stuff like that. It was that bad. But I tell you what, I still had a phenomenal movie-going experience despite that. You know.
Yeah, I know a lot of people did it. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I'd say a lot of people, but for me, I mean, I thought Blade Runner 2049 worked. It was, it's definitely different from the original in some ways, but I thought Denis Villeneuve was able to capture some aspects of the original too. Like, it didn't feel like a complete departure or anything like that. And just, I thought it's even if you watch, like, I swear, like, if you probably just turned off the sound and you just watch the movie, like, it's just visually entertaining. Like, that's and it's not anything that's just screaming at you or shouting at you, like, let's say like Zack Snyder will compose like a shot that's really cool, lifted out of the comics or whatever, but it's, sometimes that stuff can be distracting too. It can take away from a story. Yeah. And Roger Deakins manages to, like, in the same way Kubrick would frame and do his films too.
Yeah. And
it's like a painting.
Yeah. And he's an older man too. You really get the sense there's that experience comes to the fore, and it gives him the space to actually go, well, I know how to do X, Y, and Z, so let's try this little experiment, because he knows so much already. He's not having to figure out the basics. He's got those, and that gives him the room to create new things with light and looks. And, like, honestly, him and Denis Villeneuve as a pairing has been great. Like, for me, Blade Runner 2049 is a film that it's in my digital collection and my Blu-ray collection, and it's a film that I could just, anytime, any day, I could sit down and just get drawn into that film,
Yeah, it's so good. I'm sure you're looking forward to Dune. I'm not even a Dune fan, but the fact that both those guys are attached to it.
Now, is what I was going to ask you, because I haven't looked into, is Deakins in Dune, is he?
I thought he was. Maybe not. I know Denis Villeneuve is. He might have
so Denis Villeneuve is,
Okay.
Yeah, so Denis Villeneuve is, but I don't know about Deakins. That would be phenomenal if he was, because the thing about Dune was the movie they made of it. And my younger brother is the Dune expert in our household. He read all of the books. He knows that mythology really, really well. And he said to me, the film, it's a shame. It just it missed the point of it all. And there was a miniseries. Did you see the miniseries that came out?
No, I didn't.
I think it was it early 2000s? That was more accurate to the story, but it didn't have the technical aspects. So I'm kind of hoping that what you'll get is this Denis Villeneuve technical ability and a more authentic telling of that story.
Yeah, I think if anybody at this point can do it, like he is that guy that he'll find a way to bring it to life. I know I haven't read it myself. I've heard it's one of the toughest adaptations probably to do. It's kind of like that Lord of the Rings thing where
it is.
Peter Jackson managed to pull off the impossible. So I'm thinking that if anybody can do it, like, Denny's going to do it. And if he can't do it, then I don't know if anybody can. So
no.
I'm really expecting him to create like this otherworldly thing and something special. So we'll see. Yeah,
I think you're right, and I think Blade Runner has 2049. Also, the first film Sicario, that shows, to me, he has the ability, I think, to tell that kind of otherworldly story that you need for that.
Yeah. Well, he did. You brought up Prisoners too. He did Prisoners.
Prisoners is
God,
phenomenal.
yeah, he did Enemy, which is a lesser known movie with Jake Gyllenhaal.
That's right. Seen
Uh,
Enemy.
Arrival. He did Arrival.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
right.
yeah, he's done. Yeah, pretty much any movie he's done. Like he hasn't made a bad movie. At least the movies that I've seen from him. So,
There was one that he
um,
did early on that I did not like. It was an awful dark one. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It was brutal. Oh gosh, I can't even remember the name of it now. But yeah, he has got, and you sort of, there's something about his filmmaking sensibility because he tells stories, but he also talks deeply about issues like Sicario. The first Sicario film is actually exploring the question of the war on drugs and who's right and who's wrong. So
yeah,
the whole idea with what's her name, Emily.
Emily Blunt's
Emily
character.
Blunt's character, she's the virtuous, but you say naive person, but she's not real. She's saying, well, we've got to be good, and we shouldn't cross lines. And then you've got Matt Graver, played by Josh Brolin, who's like, no, grow up. We've got to do whatever
Yeah.
it takes. These people are savages. And then, of course, who's the assassin?
Benicio del Toro's
Yeah,
character.
yeah. Is it Alejandro? I'm trying to think
I
of
think
his name.
so.
Actually.
Yeah.
And
I
he
think that,
says, and he at the end he's got that great monologue where he says, you're amongst the wolves now, and
yeah.
but the film ends and he doesn't do. I thought the second one, which I've actually come to grow love a lot more now. I love Taylor Sheridan's writing, by the way. He's writing great modern westerns, but I've come to love the second one a lot more. It's a shame Denis Villeneuve didn't direct it though. I think that was missing. And the guy who made the soundtrack, he died. The Swedish guy, I can't remember his name. The great
Really?
soundtrack.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
he's dead now.
Yeah.
And so that I think there was some things that were missing in the second one, but the second one was a bit less. It was a less subtle. So it was on the moral question, what should we do? The first one was very artistic, and it said, here's the two sides of the argument. They're both making their cases. Should we be good and restrained, or should we just be meet fire with fire? And it let you at the end of it, as the viewer, discern what you thought. The second one was a bit less subtle. It was like, we're going to tell you what we think the right answer is.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I think that was the difference between the two, and the delicacy that like Villeneuve approached that first movie with.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like reminds me of like Tom. Oh gosh, the director of Joker, where he doesn't preach at you, he doesn't tell you what to believe, he just presents you with something, and it's like, okay, there's some questions here being presented now. Talk about it with your friends or think about it.
It was astounding that when you think about it, this is the guy who directed the Hangover films, for Pete's sake. You're thinking, how is this guy going to make a Joker film? How are they criticizing him and claiming it's too dark? And then you watch, you're like, he really got it right,
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing where, sometimes like somebody like him, he's doing the work that he needs to do with the Hangover, and he's a he likes comedic directing and everything.
Todd Phillips, by the way, sorry.
Todd Phillips, thanks.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. But it's like, that's where even with people that like comedy and do comedy, it's not the only, like Robin Williams, to me, he was a better dramatic actor than any of the comedy he did. And so it's like funny how like people get pigeonholed into, it's like we think like, oh, this is the only thing that they're about. But in reality, it's like, who knows how many other people out there that are doing, they're kind of like pigeonholed into or typecasted, and yet they've got this plethora of talent there that might never get discovered because they don't get the chance that like somebody like Todd Phillips does. I mean, who knows? Now Todd's going to get. He's got to get a ton of chances now after he made $1 billion.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting to talk of a sequel. I worry about that, what they'll do to it. I think it's a great standalone film, and the part of the mystery is you just leave it where it is, I think.
I agree. I think it's good on its own. Don't taint it, but...
I thought it was great what they introduced to the mythology, so I don't know what your take was on that, but my take was that they seem to be clearly saying that he was actually one of Wayne's illegitimate children. with that very end scene towards the end where he's got the photo that his mum had, and if she wrote that herself in a mental delusion from Thomas Wayne, then it's not real. But if Thomas Wayne sent her that photo, then he really is his dad. And what that does to the Batman mythology is amazing. Like it means that now it's like they are brothers. They're two different sides of the same coin.
Yeah, I think for the movie itself, I know a lot of people didn't. A friend of mine, he's like, I didn't like that. And he was like glad that, it was like, oh, that wasn't true. But I know it. I know that scene that you're talking about. It's like, well,
I don't know if I thought it wasn't true until I saw that scene. I was like, oh, hold on.
Yeah.
It all depends on whether or not
she
wrote that on the back or Thomas Wayne did.
Yeah, no, it's and that's what's great about it is like it's so ambiguous that it's kind of like a piece of modern art. Come to your own conclusion on it. Yeah. What do you see, or like an inkblot test? So it's like
Rorschach test. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's like I like that. I mean, sometimes if a movie can get you really involved in it, that type of thing can work. If it doesn't, then obviously you're already not invested, so it doesn't matter. But I like that kind of ambiguity in films where the director respects you enough to say, well, you interpret my art here.
Speaking of Robin Williams, just we'll wrap up in just a second. But Robin Williams as a darker. Did you see 1 Hour Photo when that came out?
No, I didn't. I heard he's.
Yeah, as a serial killer. I mean, but you realize now, my gosh, he was channeling his own darkness. You can see it in those. So Insomnia, he's in that. He's in 1 Hour Photo, and you realize, he's channeling his own darkness there, and it's very sadly. Funnily enough, you even go back now and I watch things like Mrs. Doubtfire. Watched it with the kids, I think, the other day again, and you see there's a bit of that darkness hanging around there too. Interestingly,
it feels real too. Like when, and I feel like it's funny though. I feel like everybody who's in comedy, maybe not everybody, but that's why they're drawn to comedy. Like somebody that is maybe like more melancholy, because it's kind of their escape, to be able to laugh and to make other people laugh. Yeah. It seems like it's not uncommon to find a lot of comedians, wind up, unfortunately meeting their end, via drug abuse or something like that. Yeah. Because there's just like skeletons in the closet. Or there's something like you said, like there's just something dark about it. And I don't know if that's like a yin yang type of thing where people, I think that's like my theory on it.
Steer into the darkness too a lot. You're a comedian. You're looking you always push the envelope. You're looking to what's really going on with people, and you wonder if steering into the darkness so much you can lose the plot if you're not careful.
Yeah, I'm not. Maybe that's part of it too. I think with like Good Will Hunting too was another film where you saw, it was incredible. Performance.
That was great.
He actually he deserved that Oscar for sure, but it was like
Dead Poets Society. Remember Dead Poets Society?
Oh yeah, that's another dark.
Now I read that Walt Whitman poem, My Captain, My Captain. I read that. My two youngest now, they've started asking me at bedtime, Dad, can you read us some poems? And so we've got this book of poetry, and I've read them, My Captain, which is ultimately about a man's father dying and him being passed on the reins of the ship. But it's a beautiful. My kids ask for that poem now, but that film, when it came out, for Robin Williams, that was a real shift in what people. I mean, it wasn't Mork and Mindy anymore,
Yeah, that was a game changer, I think, for him. Like after that, people had to take him seriously as an actor. Yeah. I mean. Yeah, I definitely think you're right. Like there's something there, and he's not the only one too. I mean, even Jim Carrey. Like you look at Jim Carrey, right. Yeah, you can tell there's a darker element to him too. And he himself even said that I wish everybody could get rich so they find out that money won't buy you happiness or something to that effect.
That's a cry for
So
help at that point, right? You know.
yeah, yeah. Like, what do you do? I think who was it? Oscar Wilde. I might even have the wrong person, but it was like, um, there's two tragedies that happen in life. Like people that want things and they never get them, and then
Yeah.
the other person that gets what they want and they
Yeah.
realize that will bring them happiness.
Yeah.
So I noticed that you did have Brendan. I know you had a few super chats come through.
Yeah, I did. I've seen one. I think they're earlier on, weren't they? Here we go here. I haven't had any more questions though, I don't think. We've got one question here that someone's had. Have I missed some? I'm not looking at YouTube. You see, I've got my streaming software. If I've missed your super chat, I apologise. If you had a question, let's see. Jeremy Coleman has said Lachona. Is it Lachona? Lacona with Tio Choco. Citizen didn't ask a question. Thank you to everyone who has posted the super chats, though. You're awesome. One question we have had, though, is, and perhaps you want to answer this, mate. Speaking of Zack Snyder, thoughts on Zack Snyder's Justice League, or the Snyder cut? The probably Snyder. I don't know. What do you think?
I think the Snyder's cut is definitely gonna be better than the Whedon cut. But I like,
that Batman suit will look better. That's for sure, without as much light on it.
Yeah, that's for sure. Part of me is looking forward to it a little bit, but I liked Watchmen. There's a lot of Zack Snyder movies that I have liked. I like Man of Steel.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think people now have this perception because I didn't like Batman v Superman. I didn't like Justice League, that I don't like Zack Snyder, and that nothing could be further from the truth. I think Zack Snyder is a great guy, and I think he's directed some really good movies. So
yeah.
But yeah, I'm optimistic that it's going to be better than what we got. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I part of me thinks, has that ship sailed? Like, the film came out, it's done its business, and off it goes. You sort of like, is it just a desperate hankering and a hope? What I suspect might happen is, I think you're probably right. It'll probably be, I don't know, maybe visually will be better. I've rewatched Justice League actually with my kids since then, and it was actually quite an accessible movie compared to some of his other stuff, particularly for young kids who enjoy superhero stuff.
Sure.
But I worry, or I wonder if what'll happen is the Snyder Cut comes out and people go, oh, okay, it wasn't that good, like they hype it up so much that just you can't help but be disappointed because it'll never meet your expectations.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's got such a loyal following.
Yeah.
And again, I like him, but I'm not like a diehard Snyder fan, like, and so I think
YouTube Live, John has disappeared off the radar. This always happens, folks. Don't panic. And John, are you there, mate? You back?
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. Don't worry. It's quite a common occurrence, mate. No, it's the YouTube demons have stop talking about Snyder. Cut that man off now.
Yeah. So I mean, long story short, it's like, I think it'll be. I think his fans will back him no matter what, and I think that's great.
He's got a fan base. Here's my take on people I know. This was one of my big things I cut my teeth on actually on YouTube originally, was the BVS, Batman v Superman videos that I made, because I argued that particularly the director's cut, which has got half an hour of missing footage, that's actually the film that he wanted to make, and I argue that it's a reasonably good film. It's not perfect, but I think the theatrical cut, man, they butchered that. The studios butchered that. And I think if more people had seen the full cut, I think they would have been a lot more sympathetic to it. For me, I enjoyed that film. Okay,
I'll have to see. I don't think I've seen the unedited cut.
Yeah, what's it called? The Ultimate Edition, I think, isn't it?
That's what it is. Yeah.
That extra half an hour of footage. Now, it doesn't take all the problems away, but it suddenly gives all this context that makes sense to things that the theatrical cut didn't give you a lot of context for. You had to fill in the blanks,
Gotcha. Yeah, I think I might have seen, because what the that edition is what, like 2 hours and 45 minutes, or is it like
It's
three
almost
hours?
3 hours, I think. It's a
Okay.
half an hour of footage they cut out.
Okay.
And there's an F-bomb in there as well. It's quite funny. It's a darker.
Okay.
See this one. What I sensed with the theatrical trailer was it was this dark film, but it didn't have everything necessary to give you the substance for that, and so it was just like, oh, this is dark and brooding and awful. Whereas when you get that stuff back, you realize what he was actually trying to do.
Okay. Yeah, I'll eventually. Well, we'll see. Might eventually see it. I guess. Yeah, it's kind of like the whole. I'll probably just see the Snyder cut just to say I saw it too.
Yeah.
Just to kind of be able to have an opinion on it, because until I do,
Yeah. You're not a real YouTuber, mate, unless you've watched every single thing that's ever been released.
I know that's my problem. I haven't reached that status yet. I mean, and mainly Die Hard is the one that's really keeping me back. Like that's the one.
I'm surprised, mate. That's mate. You're not a real YouTuber. No, you haven't seen.
I don't have street creds. I haven't seen Die Hard. Like that's it.
It'll be interesting to hear your take on it, because you may be one of those people who watches and goes, "What was the hype about?" Because in some films, you have to you either have to be there when they're released, or you have to have some nostalgic connection to it. And this may be for you one of those films where you're like, it's a very good film, but it may just be it doesn't work this far out from when it was released.
I think I'll enjoy it, and I think I'll think it's a good film. I'll be surprised if I think it's.
Oh, and he's frozen again.
Seen so many action movies that have been.
You're back. Don't worry.
Am I back?
Now. Yeah. You was just
okay.
Someone said John
Sorry.
freezes time, mate. You've used superpowers.
It happens to me on my own live streams. But yeah, I just feel like I've seen so many action movies that have stolen and borrowed from, and probably been inspired by that movie, that I'm gonna feel like I've already seen it. But we'll see. I think it's gonna be a fun viewing experience.
Well,
so
once you've watched it, let me know, and I'll make sure that I shout out with "Welcome to the party, pal" on one of my videos. So that'll be an appropriate use of that line. Tell me just one last thing to finish up with. You made a video series, didn't you, recently? A video recently about Dark.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, see, I have, yeah, I did, and I was like, great, he's finally seen it. That was one of my.
You watched it before?
Yeah, and I made a video about it several years ago. I watched it before. I think it's only recently come to the European and American Netflixes. Is that where you saw it, on Netflix?
Well, I think.
Oh, John, you're breaking up. Come in, ground control to Major Tom. John, you there, mate? Oh, we're trying to get him back. Oh, this could be disaster. Not allowed to talk about Dark at all. Let me just see while we see if we can fix this. Nothing like a good freeze in a live stream. I'm going to do something that probably shouldn't do here. I'm going to end the call, and then I'm going to call him back again now. Watch this. This is the magic of television. Classic. Major freeze. Talk to the person next to you. Oh, look at that. I think I have a funny feeling that we might have lost John. What a shame. You can't hear this, but I'm still trying to get a hold of him in the background. Let's just see what's going on here. No, I'll try one more time. So someone has said, Slice of Neon says it's a Netflix exclusive in America. So Dark has just come to Netflix in America, has it? Okay, so it looks like we've lost John, which is a bit of a shame. If he calls me back, he calls me back. Otherwise, I don't know about you, but I think you will agree that was a really, really good live stream. No, he's not online, so his internet must have dropped off. If he rings back, he rings back. I thoroughly enjoyed that conversation. I hope you got a lot out of it too, like I did. And I want to keep doing more of these. I think they're really, really fruitful. Yeah, someone says, Gene says he's gone off to watch Die Hard. Welcome to the party, pal. He'll come back. Yeah, so maybe I should fill a bit of, what do we call it in radio? Fill a bit of blank here. Yeah, those who missed it earlier on, I've had the week from hell. I was producing a long-form content video, and about one of my favourite films. And my gosh, the very first version I filmed of this thing, there were major issues, and then someone says, "Give him a minute. He usually comes back." Someone said to me, Odin's movie blog would be a great choice to have on the show. I'd love to hear your suggestions, folks, and if you can connect me with any of these people too, that'd be great. If you know them enough or you're connected to them to... Oh, what's going on here? Something weird's happening. To make the introduction, that'd be great. We'll definitely have them on the show. I'd love to hear his thoughts on Dark, though, so I might hang around for a bit if you're keen. He's using a mobile hotspot. He might have run out of data. If you're keen, maybe I should play you a song, get the guitar out and play you a song while we wait. Who wants a song? Come on, class, put your hands up. Anyway, I filmed this video. The lighting rig, the new lighting setup I've got, it absolutely decimated the green screen, and I didn't realise till afterwards. It was so frustrating. And then I went back again and shifted things around, and the second take, it just looked and sounded awful. And so had an audio issue, and then third time's a charm. So I'm going to have that video. I was up late last night till about midnight doing the final edit on that, and I will have that video online in the next few days, and you're going to see a few more of these walking and talking clips as well. How has everyone been? Let's take some questions while we're waiting for John to see if he comes back to us. Come back to us, John. Where we are. If he's lost his data. Oh, here we go. I think he might be back now. Let's try this. Drunk 3PO, the most handsome man on YouTube. Oh, classic. No. Here we go. Look at this. This is all live. I'm producing and I'm on my own live stream. How classic is that? We will wait for him. I'm pretty sure it seems to me that he is going to come back, so we'll do that. Let me get the guitar out, because this is how we fill time in my house. While we're waiting for... Oh, sorry about that. Can you hear that all right? So I assume you can hear that all right. Amanda the Jedi. Who's Amanda the Jedi? I don't know if I know Amanda the Jedi. That's another YouTuber, eh? That people are saying I should have on my show. I was having a real good YouTube session when all of a sudden it all went dead. So I had to grab my guitar instead and make up some pithy, stupid song. Oh, the internet ain't working. Oh, the internet ain't working. Take this out because I'm not singing in tune. If you ask me questions, I'll put them in the song. So Jeremy's asking me, do I like Tupac remixes? I don't know what's a Tupac remix. I got a friend who smokes cigarettes, and he's got a 2-pack limit. Oh, but I don't think that's the same kind of thing. Take both of these out so I can hear myself properly. Oh, this is so professional. Oh, internet, please work again. Oh, John, we miss you. John, where are you? Please come back. Ground control to Major John. Ground control to Major John. Yeah, so there you go. That was nice. Amanda is a Canadian film critic, pretty young, looks like Axel E. Rose's daughter. Sounds awesome. Great sense of humour. Okay, cool. I will have to seek her out because I think it would be really good to have those conversations. I don't know how you guys are finding these live streams, a bit more conversational, but I'm really enjoying them. Let me see if I can try and get John back on one more time, and then we might have to actually call it quits. That would be a real shame. What a shame way to end things, eh? To lose the man. Someone says keep going. No answer there. That's so classic. So YouTube's punishing us. They killed the dream. That was such a great stream too. It was going so well. I remember thinking to myself, gosh, it's really good. We've had very little issues here at all. And then all of a sudden, on a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair, the whole thing went dead. Yeah, where did John go? He's hopefully he's okay, and he's not the victim of some major catastrophe. Just want to say to everyone a huge thank you for tuning into this episode. John, if you're out there, please let us know that you're all right, mate, and as soon as you can. Folks, that was a really great, really great conversation, I thought. Thank you for tuning in. And I've got my mate actually coming on in a couple of weeks' time, Pete Espel. He's just started his own YouTube channel. He's an awesome dude. He's got a great backstory. I'll get him to share a bit of his backstory. But he's got a YouTube channel that focuses on, he lives in the States, ex-Marine, got a YouTube channel that focuses on hunting and trapping and stuff like that. He's really good at it from a very young age. Yeah, so we've got some good guests coming up. Of course, the new Walking and Talking show. There's going to be regular episodes. My aim is to have at least a couple of episodes of that online every week, those short form content to try and keep the channel humming. As I said, I feel a sense of obligation to those who are contributing financially to what we're doing here. And I always feel that great pang of guilt in that regard. So this is my way of trying to make the time schedule, the very busy schedule I have at the moment, work, but still keep producing that content. And, of course, the long-form content videos, the stuff I'm really passionate about. I've got one that's coming. I'm not going to even tell you what the film is because I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm excited. It's one of my favourite films. Certainly one of the best films of its kind that I think has ever been made, and a real underrated classic. It's got a much stronger following now than it did when it was released, but a great film. So that's a more long-form one. And then I'm going to do the next episode of Pandemic Philosophy. I was planning to do that next week, but because of this problem with this other video, it may actually be delayed by another week. And so I'll be talking about another viral pandemic film and exploring some of the themes, the profound or more important themes that are found in that. A huge thank you to everyone who has been supporting the channel, the super chats today. There's a PayPal link in the description below if you'd like to leave a one-off tip in the tip jar. If you're watching this video after the fact, then you can do it that way. If you'd like to support the channel on an ongoing basis, I'd love that. It helps to see more content made, and you can do that either at Patreon or Subscribestar. The links for both are found below in the video description as well. If you've got any feedback, let me know. The links for how to do that are found in the video description below as well. Yeah, it's awesome. And as I said, a huge thank you to everyone who has contributed to the channel and helps to make these videos keep on keeping on. I've got a little plan. I don't know if I should tell you too much about it, but I'm thinking over the next 6 to 12 months that I would like to move into a bit more of a permanent YouTube space and produce more content. Yeah, it's interesting. I think the whole COVID thing has caused me to reevaluate a few things and ask a few questions, and I think there's some real potential that lies unexplored. It's just a matter of taking a risk and taking a jump into that deep ocean. So yes, before I do go though, I might just try. No, he's He's not there, I don't think. Oh, is he there? Is he there? Are you there, John? Just one last time. See if we can bring him back to share his thoughts about the film Dark. No, it's not looking promising at all, unfortunately. So there you go. That's a shame. Thank you for tuning in, folks. If you're not already a subscriber, don't forget to give the old subby. Give us a sub. Come on, give us a sub. You know you want to. And don't forget to hit that notifications button if you slice a neon singing Britney Spears. Bye, bye, bye. Hit that notification button. And make sure you do that because obviously YouTube have this new fun little game that they seem to be playing called Let's Unsubscribe People Who Don't Want to Be Unsubscribed. It's a new fun thing they do. But make sure you get those notifications as well. And then you'd think it would be simple, right? Subscribe to a channel and then you get told whenever there's new video content. But no, you've got to subscribe and you've got to also... I don't know what the point of subscribing is then. Anyway, that's another story. Another day. Angry old man complaining about YouTube. But yes, there you go. Make sure you subscribe. And as I said, I love your support. Appreciate you. Oh, hold on. I think we might have John back again. Oh, look at this. Just as I was about to pull the pin. Hey! Oh. Look at this. Look, this is all happening. That's the Skype tune music that you can't hear at the moment. Honestly, I was literally just about to hang up and then I get a missed call from John. John, what are you doing? I'm trying to ring you. This is probably one of the best live streams ever, eh? Here we go. Oh, John, are you there?
Am I back?
Yeah, John, you're back. Oh, he's back. Look at this, folks.
Son of a gun.
Oh,
okay,
what that was glorious. We were just about to hang up. So before we do that, because I was supposed to go to another. Well, I'll actually go and do some other work after this, but
you can make it quick. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine, mate. It's not your fault at all. But I will make that a priority. I want to finish this conversation. Dark. Did you? I first watched it. It wasn't available. I think it came later to the American and European Netflix. It was available in European, not American. And I had a VPN, so I was able to watch it on the European channel. And several years ago, and I made a video about it. I raved about this. By the way, I should say, this is the other thing I wanted to say. My YouTube channel, it sort of really cut its teeth with Star Wars. Like that was, if you go and look at my most popular videos. But what's happened in the last 2 months is it looks like my video about the movie Downfall, about Adolf Hitler in the bunker, is about to become the most popular video I've ever done. So
really?
I'm moving on from the Last Jedi. And
wow.
Yeah.
How many
anyway,
views is that?
What was that? Sorry.
How many views does the
so that's just over 4. The Downfall one has had just over 400,000 views now.
Wow.
But it's great. Climbing. It's only about 40,000 views away. The top video is at 2.2 million though. That's a video I did about feminist hypocrisy at the Olympics. 2.2
I remember
million
seeing
views.
that video, yeah.
Funny, eh? That was a Daily Show episode. So tell me then, now that we've got you back, Dark, what did you think of Dark?
I thought season 1 was astounding.
Yeah.
Season 2 was really good. And season 3 was satisfying. Like I was satisfied. I know there's probably some issues with it. There is some issues with it, but overall I appreciate the ride. And yeah, I'm glad they didn't try to drag it out too long.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the show?
Yeah, I'm probably the same. I think season 1 was phenomenal. And in my video, I made a comparison with Stranger Things. And some people got really upset with me about that. But I thought, I know they're two different things, but I think Dark was a better version of Stranger Things, I felt. There's a lot of similarities, and I felt Dark... Yeah, look, it might be an unfair comparison, I know. Someone here, Jeremy, has said, I liked Dark, but I thought it needed more child murder.
Jeremy has a very unique sense of humor.
Hey, Jeremy, can you pass the salt, please, while you're there? Yeah, that's a fair point. That is a fair point. It's just, there was a lot of... It reminded me of Looper a bit, actually, at one point. killing people.
Yeah. Yeah. It was one of those, like, it's just a mind bender. And that's what I loved about it. And just the whole idea of time. And it makes you think about time and its effects. And if and then if you could travel back in time. And
Yeah.
I just love that whole, and the way they did it, it felt about as realistic, especially like the first season.
Yeah.
Really felt about like, if there was time travel, maybe this would be the way that it would, it would work.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just blown away by the series. It's going to be one of my all-time favorites for sure.
Yeah, it was. You're right, and I think too, the way they used the cave as the portal, I thought that was great.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was deliberate or not, because I haven't read much about it, but whether there's some allusion to Plato's cave or something like that about the shadows, you don't see everything clearly. I do wonder.
Yeah, I think caves in general, there very well could have been something like that. I think the writers were playing with some of these archetypes, and there's something about a cave, there's just something like mythic, and you have a lot of, even in these stories where characters, like religious stories, or where characters go into caves, and they come out different people. But yeah, even maybe Plato's cave too. I didn't even put that together, but
yeah, you're right. It's the story of Jonah, right? Comes out of the belly of the whale. It's a death resurrection story.
Yeah.
But that first season was so impacting for me. It did tail off a bit, I think, though.
Yeah. What were some of your issues with the last season?
I haven't seen all of that yet.
Okay.
But I felt it started to wane a bit in season 2, actually.
Okay.
It felt like they had this really great setup, and then all of a sudden, a little bit like season 2 started going backwards a bit. Here's how I'd explain it. To me, it felt like The Matrix. So The Matrix film comes out, and then the second film, you're like, hold on, what are they doing? What are they doing? And then by the third one, you're like, it's got too overly convoluted for its own good. It's tried to build too much into what was there. That's what I
think that's fair. I think that's fair. Yeah. I mean, definitely, like, the Matrix should have been a standalone movie, and it would have been just fine. Like, it didn't need sequels. It didn't need anything.
Yeah.
And I think for me, especially with if you thought season 2 was getting convoluted, season 3 is like, it's going to, if you felt like you had, like, just following all the characters and following everything in the first 2 seasons, like, if you thought you had an issue with that, like, season 3 is going to challenge you even more terms of, But so, have you seen anything of season 3 yet?
I've seen a couple of episodes.
Okay. Yeah.
At the start of it.
Okay.
I've seen the timelines that people have drawn online to try and it's like, this isn't helping. Those flow charts of who goes where.
Yeah. Season 3. I mean, it is. Nina brought up some things about the third season, and I didn't have the same enthusiasm and gusto as I did with even season 2. I was right. It was at the tail end of season 2, and I'm like, are they really going to try to go there? Like, they've already got so much going on here. Now they want to take it into a whole nother world. I'm like, this is.
Do you know?
I think they're biting off more than they can chew.
Do you know if they were told that's it, you've got no more money, and they then tried to rush it, or what happened? You know what I mean? Like, they tried to complete the story with less time than they thought they had.
That's a good question. They said that they wanted to do 3 seasons and just stop, but I think if they wanted to tell that story, it felt like they needed maybe another season, because season 1 is really, it moves at a great pace. It's just like everything, like, it just sucked me in terms of, like, it's a slow burn, but that was a strength.
Yeah.
Season 2 does move a little bit faster, I think, but season 3 is like, there's so much stuff going on where it kind of loses that almost dread. There was like this sense of dread in the first season where it was like you were on this slow train ride and you couldn't get off, and it was just I don't know. There's something about it.
Yeah, and you were like, what have they done? You're like, what have they done? That was the whole thing. It's like, they've caused a problem. What have they done?
Yeah. Yeah,
Someone here says, Jeremy says they never explained why they were killing the kids. I'm surprised by that. Did they not explain that?
I mean, I think the whole point was like that was a time travel contraption that they were trying to perfect, and the kids were like guinea pigs.
Yeah.
And then because they had to keep replaying and doing the same thing over and over again, like everything had to be played out the same way. That's why they had to, continually kill them, I guess.
I thought it was the paradox issue myself. They were trying to stop a dead end, create a dead end so it couldn't cause more effect or something.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, you're right. If they haven't explained that properly, then that's not so good. So I assumed that's where it was going to go to. That they're saving some alternate timeline or something. That's what I thought was going on.
Well, yeah, I think that was the thing why they kept doing, that became almost of a trope though too, like where they had to keep doing the same thing to wind up getting, that's where season 3 winds up. Like it kind of does get tiring.
Yeah.
In the sense of like, okay, like this is just too, like,
yeah.
Like the characters would do, tell their younger selves, like, you have to do everything so that I could still be the person that I am to do what I need to do. It's sometimes like there's so much going on where it's a bit much, but I appreciate the ambition of it though. Like I've never seen a film series with that many characters.
No, and what they try to do is complex. I don't know if you've seen Gangs of London, but I watched Gangs of London last week. Gosh, that was pretty good. Same guys who were involved in the Raid movies. And if you know the action from the Raid films, you will be pleasantly surprised with this TV series. The one thing I'd say about Gangs of London is that it feels like almost like a series of two halves, if that makes sense. It's 10 or 11 episodes. They've set up for the second season, but it felt like the big crescendo actually happened right in the middle of the series. I think it was episode maybe 6 or 7, and then it felt almost like a different type of program for the latter half of the
really
of the season.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. Honestly, it feels like I don't want to spoil it for people, but there is some if you like what that style of action and the set pieces and the camera work in the Raid, you will love this TV series. It's exactly that. But there's a big crescendo episode that happens. I think it's 6 or 7. One of the pikey gangs. I'm not giving away too many spoilers there, but between a father and the son and these group of assassins, and it's it's not continuous, but it's one continuous shot. Basically, the whole episode is this shootout. And then it's sort of after that, it suddenly becomes almost a bit closer to a stock standard British crime thriller. It's interesting. But yeah. Any
different creative people behind it? They're taking over from there, or
I don't know. I looked and I thought it's interesting. It's weird. It was almost like they said, okay, we've done too many action set pieces now. Let's tone those. Yeah, it was weird because honestly, right in the middle, there's these 2 episodes back to back. There's an assassination scene and then a shootout scene, and there's amazing action set pieces. And there's one early on, and there's a scene in the pub which you can watch online. I think it's on YouTube already. The pub scene from Gangs of London. But then all of a sudden, it just changes tact. But yeah, it was an enjoyable series. Enjoyable.
The executives are like, you know what? Sorry, we gambled away like most of the money. Everything needs to be shot interior. We've got,
we can't afford any more action set pieces. And I know this is not spoiling if you haven't seen it, but you'll know what I mean once you do watch it. There's I would call it almost a homage to Fight Club. I won't say any more.
Oh, okay.
But I think if you get it, you'll get it. If you've seen it, you'll know what I mean. It's later in the series. Yeah, it's interesting. It's this whole crime family, crime drama, but it's a lot more complex than what you think, what's going on in this family. And I was hooked by the visuals. I didn't know anything about it before I went in. I didn't know the guys behind the Raid were connected to it. And I thought, well, I'll give it a try. And I went in, and right from the very first, I was like, okay, this is interesting. This is, and it hooks you in, so.
I gotta see this series. If you're recommending it.
Yeah, there's one thing I'd say. Just it's got some stuff that's not. I mean, it's pretty. It's the sharp end of the adult content, but there's 2 graphic sexual moments in the whole series, which again, that was kind of a pleasant surprise. That a lot of that HBO type stuff, it's just wall-to-wall porn now seems to be the filler that they use. There's one scene early on in an episode, and then there's one at the very end, and then that was it. And I was like, oh, this is good. They're actually telling a story, and they're trying to focus on the actual family and the crime and everything else that you want in a crime drama. It's not tropey so much. And there's some tropes in there, but not as much,
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to have, One TV show real quick. Have you seen Succession?
Succession? No, I haven't. Who's in that?
Oh gosh, what is the guy's name? I'm trying to think of the older guy's name. Brian Cox, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, Macaulay Culkin's brother's in it. It's about a wealthy family. It just got nominated for a bunch of Emmys.
Succession.
Yeah, if you've got HBO or
Okay.
That was a great show. I mean, definitely, gosh, but there is quite a bit of language in it though. Just a heads up. But the show itself was, it's about a wealthy family, and it's very interesting.
All right, I'll give that a try then.
Yeah.
Tell me, John, let's wrap this up because
Sure.
We had that little technical blowout, and that's
sorry about that.
No, don't apologise, mate. That's life. It's the the technical demons. Now tell me, how do people follow you if they're not already following you? How do they you're on Twitter, right? And you've got YouTube. Tell people how they can connect with you.
Just type in John Talk Star Wars on YouTube on the search. My channel will pop up, and it's pretty much that simple. So.
Yeah, awesome. Don't forget to give them a sub if you're not already subbed.
Yeah, and you can follow me on Twitter. I think it's J_T_Star Wars. So
awesome.
But that's it. Yeah.
John, thank you so much for coming on the show. That was a great conversation, mate. I really enjoyed that. Really, really enjoyed that.
I did too, man. I did too. Love to have you on my channel at some point if you can make it, and just kind of continue it. Yeah,
I agree. And look, my hope is to actually have you back on the show because I think that would be really, really good. I'd love to have you back on, actually. It seems to me we've got a lot of, shall we say, entertainment movie interests in common. So that's a good thing.
Definitely.
To everyone else, thank you for tuning in. John, stay there, mate. I'll talk to you in just a second. But in the meantime, everyone else, thank you for tuning in. We'll say goodbye now. This time it's real. And we'll see you next week on Left Foot Media. Cheers.